there is more. You could get the best. So if you paint your picture of pregnancy and delivery, maybe around what your friend, shared with you or what you saw on social media, that might not be a good idea because you could have something way, way better than that. Hello, guys. My baby is going to be 3 months in a couple of days. You guys, I woke up this morning and I was thinking about the journey of pregnancy and delivery and postpartum, and I was just really emotional about it. You guys, my baby is here, so just in case you hear his voice, it's just really close to me here in his swing, looking at me. So you guys, I was just really emotional about the journey so far, and I said I was gonna share with you all, especially if you are pregnant or you just had a baby. I want you to know that you are amazing and you were doing a really great job. I feel like society, baby, please be quiet, please. I feel like society is not loud enough on the huge impacts of pregnancy and delivery and childbirth on women. So I'm going to share with you today the lessons that I learned through pregnancy and how pregnancy and childbirth can impact our marriage, some of the things that I did, and what you can do as well. So if this is your first time, my name is Sarah, or knowing me, and on this channel we are all about helping you in your relationships thrive. Some of them are really emotional, but I'm just gonna do my best to be cool and calm. Yeah, I don't want to do a lot of drama today. So I'm gonna do my best to keep my face away from tears. Yeah, I had to write it down so that way I don't miss out of anything. Hello guys, my baby pooped. So I had to go and attend to him, but I am back. Yeah, and I had to wear him. He just wouldn't stay by himself. Okay, so first, one of the things that I missed, because I was pregnant and I started to add weight, was being able to put on my wedding ring. You guys, I missed that so much. And I was just 3 months into pregnancy before I couldn't put on my wedding rings anymore, and it was so painful. So for the whole 9 months, I remember I would like try it at some point, and it's just gonna be really difficult to get it into my finger, and I just gave up. And I said, okay, when I finally put to bed, I am gonna pick it up again. Sadly, I tried to, I think I used it on my birthday, but it took me pain to get it out of my finger. And I said I will never put it on again until I'm able to, I don't know, maybe go back to pre-pregnancy size. I don't know how that's gonna look like, or maybe we're just gonna get another one. I don't know, but I really miss that. I really miss that. Let me know in the comment section, what are those things that you missed? Um, you know, because you're pregnant or you just had a baby or you're a mom. For me, it's not being able to put on my wedding rings, and I miss that a lot. So, yeah, let's get right into today's video. So the first lesson that I learned about pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum is to embrace the process. You guys, there is a lot that happens when we are pregnant. Um, some of them you could explain, some of them you're not able to explain. um, One of the ones that I can remember was just sitting while I was pregnant, was just sitting and just crying. And the first time it happened, I think, was it during my first trimester? I really can't remember. But for me, I was heavily impacted by nausea and vomiting. That's impacted me for almost 8 months out of 9 months of pregnancy. So I remember I just sat down in our living room that day and I was just crying. And my husband walked in and was like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I don't know why I'm crying, but anyways, he didn't know what to do and he just sat beside me. Because obviously I didn't just know why I was crying. So I learned to embrace the process of pregnancy and embrace the process of delivery and childbirth, but not to let my emotions lead the way. And this is what I mean. When I was pregnant, I don't know if this is the same for everybody, but I know I've heard a lot of stories out there. But when I was pregnant, there are days that I'm just so excited. Excuse me. I was just so excited. I was happy. And then after a couple of days, I am down. I'm just there. I don't want to maybe really have conversation. I don't want to do stuff. I'm just there. And one of the things I notice is those times when I am, down, I don't want to talk, or maybe I'm crying. There's a lot of thoughts that goes through my mind, and most of them are not positive, right? Some of them I just don't know where those thoughts, where they just came from, but they just kind of flow in my head. But one thing that I learned is not to let my emotions lead the way. So when those negative thoughts come to my mind, I don't say them. I just speak to myself like, I know what I'm doing. I love this journey. I'm excited for this journey, even if that's not how I feel. Okay, so I learned to embrace the process, and because every single time is different, every single day with pregnancy is different. Okay, like I said earlier, I was heavily impacted by nausea and vomiting. I had tension headaches. I had round ligament pain. At a time I just couldn't like really move or do stuff. And it was just a lot. And as much as I, wish that I had something better than that, a lot of times you're not the one that choose what happens in the pregnancy. Yes, you can pray, you can, believe God for some things, but sometimes nature just take its course and you just can't do anything about it. But the only thing I could do about it, and I think you can do about it if you're pregnant right now, is to embrace the process. But do not let your emotions lead the way. So when you start to feel down, you start to feel unhappy, you don't want to say the things that are coming to your mind, especially if they are negative. and you don't want to snap at your partner because they obviously are not the reason why you're feeling that way. Yeah, of course, they are part of the pregnancy because you guys had a nice time and you got pregnant as husband or wife, but they are not the cause of how you're feeling. So I learned not to let my emotions lead the way. That's the first lesson. Um, so to speak on that, if you you know, this is to husbands now. I give example that sometimes I just sit and I'm just crying, and this was during pregnancy and even after postpartum. After I had my baby, I think 2 weeks after delivery, I had, natural bath. So 2 weeks after delivery, I was just in the living room area and I was just crying. I remember I held my baby and I was just crying. It was very early in the morning. I just had to send text to my husband. I said, hey, babe, all right, I'm in the living room. I am crying. I am not depressed. I am not having negative thoughts. I'm not trying to do something stupid. I am just mentally exhausted. And the reason is because the impact of pregnancy was there. I just had a delivery. I needed to care for my baby. Babies feed like every 2 to 3 hours at night, so I couldn't sleep. It was just a whole lot of mental stress. But my husband came and said, okay, it's gonna be fine. So this is to husbands out there. Anytime you see your wife do this, just maybe sit beside them or just hug them. It's not a time to say a lot of words. It's just a time to reassure them and just let them know that it's gonna be okay and you're there for them. So yeah, that's the first things that I learned. I also learned that you don't verbalize your fears. Okay, again, not letting your emotions lead the way. And what I mean is, when I was pregnant, there were a lot of stories out there. People say different kind of things. Some of them are really good stories, and some of them are just like, what's this? And I honestly respect everybody's journey when it comes to pregnancy and childbirth. But some of the stories can just really put fear on our hearts. When I was like, during the first trimester, I had threatened miscarriage, and the thought of will I lose my baby, all of these thoughts were just coming to my mind. And because I had also experienced a miscarriage before, all of these thoughts were just coming to my mind. Will I see the end of this pregnancy? What would happen? But again, I have learned not to speak my fears. I would rather speak God's word. I would rather speak courage. I would rather speak the positive side rather than letting my emotions lead the way. The number 2 lessons that I learned is not to assume someone else's pregnancy and childbirth journey. Like I said earlier, I truly respect everybody's journey, but I think there is more out there. One of the things that I realize with pregnancy and delivery is if we're not careful, we will begin to assume and expect someone else's pregnancy journey and experience. Okay, so whatever someone went through out there about their pregnancy journey and their childbirth delivery, whatever it is, okay, I learned not to assume that journey, that's what I'm gonna experience, because there is more. You could get the best. So if you paint your picture of pregnancy and delivery, maybe around what your friend shared with you or what you saw on social media, that might not be a good idea, because you could have something way better than that. But if you just think, oh, this is how pregnancy is, and you just embrace that, that might not be a good idea. So I learned not to assume someone else's pregnancy journey because everybody's journey is different with pregnancy and with childbirth. So the number three thing that I learned about pregnancy, childbirth is never to assume that my husband understand what I'm feeling if I don't communicate it. You guys, men live in a totally different world than we do when we are pregnant. Obviously, there's a lot of difference between a man and a woman and how we kind of do things. But when it comes to pregnancy, we're just in two different worlds. Okay. The early stage of the pregnancy, I kind of thought like, oh, my husband should understand how I'm feeling and should be able to do this and do that. But over time, I just realized that we both are in two separate worlds entirely. So that I should communicate what I'm feeling and how I am feeling. That if I never communicate how I'm feeling, there is no how in the world my husband is gonna know how I feel. Yes, he can see it, right? He can probably see the physical parts, but when it comes to the emotional parts and some of the things that happen in our hormones, our husbands don't know that, right? Yeah, for my husband, I think he picked up a book. Now we are parents, or now we are pregnant, and it was reading like every 2 weeks, or what are you supposed to expect this time of the pregnancy, first trimester, second trimester. But again, like I said, every journey is different. Okay, so I learned that I should communicate what I'm feeling and how I am feeling and how I think my husband can help me. Like I said earlier, we live in two different worlds, and we just don't want to make our husbands miserable, right? There's this popular I don't know, view out there that most men feel like, oh, when women are pregnant, it's like a time to punish their husbands or whatever. But I don't think that's a good idea, right? Yes, we are pregnant, but they are still human. They are our husbands, and we still love them. So why do we just want to leave them to just figure things out when we can actually communicate and tell them this is how I am feeling? Okay, I don't feel like talking. I don't feel like cooking. I don't feel like, just tell them how you feel. And sometimes you might have to tell them, okay, I just don't know how I'm feeling, right? And that's okay. So I learned to communicate how I am feeling, and not just let my husband read my mind, because obviously he can do that. And the moment I realized that, it just really made our relationship better. It made our communication better because I wasn't assuming my husband knew what was going on with me, and he was able to support me in ways that I needed, because sometimes I just tell him this is what I need. Okay, that's the third lesson that I learned. The fourth lesson that I learned is pregnancy and childbirth has a huge impact on marriage. Okay, yes, I picked up couple books to read, which was good. It kind of gave me an idea of what to expect, but you guys, it was just so different. I remember before I got pregnant, I told my husband, I'm gonna be sure that I am just, fine for the pregnancy. I'm gonna dress so good and do this. I mean, I said a whole lot of things I was gonna do when I get pregnant, but unfortunately most of them never happened. I remember telling my husband, don't worry, I'm gonna be there for you when I get pregnant. I'm not gonna just put all the attention on the pregnancy. But you guys, things went in a different way. I remember at some point when my tummy started protruding. I mean, we just couldn't, enjoy sex the way we used to. Before I got pregnant, things were so uh, different when I got pregnant. And remember, I said nausea and vomiting really impacted me. So one of the ways to manage that for me was to like make sure that I have food in my tummy. And before I got pregnant, I wouldn't have food until like my first meal until like 11 a.m. in the morning. So now I have to be awake to, go have food like 4 a.m. or sometimes 5 a.m. in the morning. And this is just not convenient. So while my husband is still in bed, I already jumped out of bed to go and get something to eat. And before I got pregnant, we would usually have like, couples time in the morning before my husband, goes to work. We just couldn't do this anymore. And I truly miss that. You guys, I couldn't hug my husband the way I will do because my tummy was getting in the way. And even, after I had my baby, um, currently we now sleep in different rooms because my husband had to go to work the following day. And like I said, my baby would feel like every 2-3 hours, and sometimes it would cry. My husband doesn't do well when the environment is noisy, and he won't be able to sleep. So that he won't be sleeping at work the following day, he would just sleep in a different room. And I was sleeping in a different room, and that's huge, you guys. Sometimes, the way I was able to manage that, even right now that we just had our baby, is to I just like wake up in the morning at about maybe 4 a.m. when I just finish feeding my baby, and I'll go to the second room and we're just gonna have some time together. There are times that we're really having a nice time and my baby just cries. And I'm like, hey baby, can't you just understand? So I had to hop up my intentionality game to constantly communicate with my husband, ask my husband how he was feeling, because another thing that I noticed is society ignores men and husbands when it comes to childbirth and pregnancy, childbirth, and delivery, because they feel like they should just be like, be a man, just be a man for your wife, be a man for your kids. So a lot of times people would ask me, hey Sarah, how are you doing? How are you feeling? But only few people were just asking my husband how he was doing. So I took that upon myself that I was gonna ask my husband, hey baby, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How is this impacting you? And he will tell me, we will have conversation together. So pregnancy and childbirth can really have impacts on marriage. So if you ask me, will I recommend that, when people, this is just my personal opinion, when people get married, should they start a family immediately? Personally, I would say no, because you guys, I missed the couple last few years we had before we had our baby. I missed the things we were doing together. And if I had my baby immediately, I probably wouldn't have known that I missed so much, right? Because I don't have anything to compare. So because the moment you have the baby, even if that's not what you want to do, the focus is just on the pregnancy, on the baby, especially the first 3 months of delivery. You're trying to learn, your baby's ways of doing things. You're trying to figure out when it wants to feed. You're trying to understand its cues. So the attention is not even on both of you. The attention is not on your marriage. The attention is just on the baby, especially for first time mom. Okay, so being intentional is very essential, and that was really helpful. Yes, it wasn't business as usual. I just would take advantage of every little time that I have. Like right now that we have our baby, some days we plan that, oh, we're gonna have this time together, and my baby's awake at that time and he wants to feed or he wants to play, and then we can try another time. So just kind of see what works. It's not gonna be the same way. So if you're expecting that to happen, that's not gonna happen. But just be intentional that no matter what, you're going to prioritize your marriage, your relationship, the things that you share over, delivery. Don't forget that's very, very important, because our kids are gonna grow, and our marriage is still gonna be there. So we don't want to neglect each other because we now have a baby. Because for you to even care for your baby really well, it's very important that both of you are healthy. If you are not healthy, okay, I don't think you can give your best to your children. So prioritize your relationship. So the fifth lesson that I learned is having the right knowledge can help you stay at peace. Yes, for when you're pregnant and when you just, for childbirth, having the right knowledge. And this is what I mean. So one of the things that I notice is when people are pregnant, there's a lot of counselors and coaches out there. There's a lot of information out there, and some of this information are even really conflicting. So hey, saying something else, someone else is saying another thing. I feel like when you pick up like a couple books and pick up a couple articles to read, you're just going to know what to expect. It doesn't tell you for sure everything you're gonna do, everything you're gonna experience, because you can have a slightly different experience, but that can really prepare your mind for what to expect, and know information and counsel and things to listen to when people give you guidance and when people give you counsel. You can really sift them and know which one is really important, okay? Because trust me, you're gonna get a lot of counsel. Some of them when you ask, some of the ones you don't ask, people just tell you, hey, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, or this is what this person did, this is what I did. And if you don't have the right knowledge with you, you're just going to be confused. So that was really helpful. I'm going to put some of the titles of the book that I read in the description box below. And, it was just really helpful. It was really helpful. I'm trying to remember, one of the experience. Okay, so a very good example that I have about that was how babies feed and how they sleep. After I had my baby, it was so new to see that babies will want to be awake at a certain time to feed and to eat. Because I knew what to expect, I was like, okay, baby's gonna grow out of this in a couple of months. This is how far you will still be awake, every 2 to 3 hours to feed. So I know this is gonna, pass away with time. So picking a couple books out there to help you know what to prep, especially on postpartum. Okay, because this is a really big one. After delivery, whether you had a vaginal delivery or a C-section delivery, whatever way you had your baby, postpartum is very, very important. And being mentally stable and physically okay is very essential. And a lot of people just don't talk about that, right? They don't talk about that. I remember I had to do a lot of research and do a lot of findings of what do I need, how can I get this, so that I can be sure that I'm also okay while I'm taking care of my baby. Okay, so because a lot of people focus on even getting gifts for the baby. Obviously, a lot of people don't even ask, hey, mama, what are you buying for yourself, or what are you getting for yourself? And because this was what I experienced, I told myself, if I have people that are pregnant around me or just had a baby, I would go further to get things for them and not just the baby, because this is not what a lot of people think is necessary. Number 7 lesson that I learned is to understand that my husband still has a need. And I didn't get to realize this immediately when I got pregnant. Like I said earlier, I just feel like, okay, my husband is gonna know that I am pregnant. Until my husband told me, hey babe, nothing has really changed about me as a guy. I am still the same person before you got pregnant, and now that you're pregnant, nothing has changed. And I just, thought about that for a minute, and I feel like, oh, this is true. I am the one carrying the baby. I am the one feeling the kick. I am the one, like I am the one growing the baby. There is no way my husband can feel the same thing that I am feeling. So my husband told me, I still have a need as a man, and that really helped me change my mind when it comes to, how I relate with my husband when it comes to, pregnancy and childbirth. So ever since he told me that, I would always go extra mile to see how I can still meet, how we can still meet each other's need, because I just didn't assume like, oh, I'm pregnant, my husband should know that there's a lot going on there. I'm tired, but he still has a need. And we just don't want to neglect that part. Is very, very essential that we still meet our husband's need, especially when you're able to, if you don't have like any physical restriction or whatever, but just know that the fact that you're pregnant doesn't mean your husband doesn't have a need. He still has a need, so you want to constantly check with him and see how he's doing. The number 8 lesson that I learned is to filter the information that I expose myself to out there. You guys, there is a lot of information about pregnancy and childbirth out there. And already being pregnant puts a lot of pressure around us as women, because there's so much going on in your head. Sleepless night. Sometimes you're able to eat, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're just thinking about how delivery is gonna be, sometimes you're thinking about how your life is gonna change. And when we now start to take in every information that we have out there, that's not gonna help us. So one of the decisions that I made was that I was not going to listen to any pregnancy or delivery video, or I was not going to read any, maybe article or whatever that is not positive, because I had a lot of internal fears to deal with. Why should I add more to it? Okay, again, like I said, I respect everybody's journey. I remember when I was 32 weeks pregnant, I saw a video about, how I had my baby at 32 weeks. You guys, I just jumped and passed. I just jumped and passed. I didn't open it. Okay, the moment I saw the thumbnail, I just didn't open it, because there's a lot that I was dealing with at that time when it comes to thinking about what would happen for my delivery. And now I am 33 weeks pregnant, and this is a video about how I had my baby at 32 weeks. I don't want that to happen. So I just jump and pass. So you don't have to know all the information happening out there. You don't need every information. So just filter any information that you expose yourself to, and be sure that whatever you are viewing, whatever you're seeing is something positive, because you guys, it's gonna come back when you don't even expect, right? I remember when when I was in the labor room and I was pushing. Obviously I just thought that I was just gonna push for like 3-5 times and baby's just gonna come out. Unfortunately, I was wrong. And I just started to think about something negative. I've had people say, oh, they did this, they did that, even though I could still go through, vaginal delivery, because eventually that's what I had. But, these were thoughts going on in my head. So if you're currently pregnant, my counsel to you is please filter every information that you listen to out there. You don't need all the information out there. So this one is really important, you guys. And it's about breastfeeding. It's about breastfeeding. I'm going to share with you what I learned, some of the lessons that I learned in a really hard way. It was a really hard lesson, but I've just processed it, and I think I'm cool with it right now. So breastfeeding is great, but that is not all that makes a child healthy. And I say this because the society kind of make it look like if you're not able to breastfeed your baby, then you're not a good mom, you're not a great mom, you're not doing what is best for your baby. This is my observation. And this is a really, sad way to view things, because then for whatever reason, for some people who are not able to breastfeed their babies, maybe because of health challenges, or maybe breastfeeding just didn't go well, they're just gonna feel like they have failed. They are gonna feel like, oh, they didn't do what's best for their baby. Okay. And my experience taught me that breastfeeding is great, but that is not the only thing a child needs to be healthy for life. Okay, I'm going to tell you what my experience is shortly. So eventually I was able to realize that, okay, the recommendation for breastfeeding is a minimum of 6 months and maximum of 2 years. So take, for instance, maybe the child is going to be like 80 years on earth. And let's even say you were able to breastfeed for like 2 years. What happens for the next 78 years of the child's life? So a lot of people focus so much on breastfeeding, and after the baby starts to feed or have solid, they feed the baby like junks and just unhealthy food. So for me, I really had to focus on the bigger picture, which is that even after breastfeeding, that I want to go ahead to feed my baby with what is healthy. And I also was able to realize that, what was I gonna say? I was able to realize that what makes a child healthy is not just breastfeeding, but the child's emotional health, the child's mental health, and the environment where the child is growing. All of this contributes to how a child grow and how healthy a child is, and it's just not breastfeeding. Okay. So what was my experience after I had my baby? My breast milk didn't kick in right away, and I started to pump. First, breastfeeding was really painful. Maybe someday I'm just going to do like a whole video on that, but let me just quickly share this right now. So eventually my breast milk started to come out, and I started to get more breast milk. But after a while, my baby wasn't latching well, so it would just latch for a couple of minutes. And because of that, my body felt like, oh, I didn't need this much milk, and my milk supply started to reduce. And I didn't know immediately that this was happening until after a while. And right now I'm doing all that I could to get things back, but it's just not what it is. So doing breast milk, feeding my baby breast milk, and I'm also doing formula right now. And it was really painful to see that happen, but anyways, someday I'm going to talk about that. But my point today is, if you're able to breastfeed your baby, great. If you're not able to, for some reason or the other, you are still doing great. For crying out loud, you carried this baby for 9 months. You pushed out the baby. You grew a whole human. So measuring your success as a mom just with breastfeeding, I think it's unfair. So I want you to know that you're doing great. Okay, you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing. If you could carry that baby for 9 months and you could push this baby out even when it's not comfortable, you're doing amazing. You're doing a good job. um, the second to the last lesson that I learned, that I think this is going to be really helpful, is to give your body the permission to heal on its time. You guys, this is so important. Okay, it took me 9 good months to grow a baby in my body. So why do I expect, or why does society expect that after 3 months or after 6 months, things are just gonna get back to the way it used to be? I don't think this is true for everybody. And we also need to understand that everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is different. So we don't want to compare ourselves. We don't want to compare our body. We don't want to compare our recovery. We don't want to compare our postpartum recovery. We don't want to compare our kids and our baby. Social media is great, but I think that one of the things that social media is doing to us as new mom is to help us compare things. And this is not healthy. So you want to give yourself the time for your tummy to heal. Okay, this is a really big one, right? After I had my baby, my tummy was still, just there. For me, the recovery was really fast, right? But everybody's journey is different. And we all need to understand this. And we don't need to feel bad if it's taking a while for your body to get back to pre-pregnancy stage, because it took 9 months for you to grow a baby. So the last thing, which is really important, is to avoid comparison. Don't compare your journey. Everybody's journey is different. I learned that not to compare my journey, not to compare my body. I also learned not to compare my baby, what my baby looks like, my baby's milestone, because everybody's journey is different. So these are the lessons that I learned. Let me know what are other lessons that you learned while you were pregnant, and if you just had a baby. And thank you so much for watching and listening to me. Please share in the description box below what are some of these things that you learned. And if this video is helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. And if you have people that are pregnant around you, or just had a baby, share this video with them. Okay, share the video with them. Once again, I want you to know, as a mom, and if you're pregnant, that you were doing amazingly well. And I love you. See you another time.